Hello and welcome everybody to Beyond the Summit 2. I am Vikramond, and what we're covering today is the RedBull ECL Esports Champion League 2013. We haven't done any coverage of this tournament before. There were two groups played out. We'll talk about the results of those in just a little while. But for now, I'd just like to introduce you to this game between NA, Never Alone Gaming, and ErH, or Enjoy Relax H. So to give you a little bit of background, the esports, the RedBull Esports Champion League, the ECL as we'll call it, is a league that's being held primarily by Chinese teams, although today we will actually see one of the few non-Chinese teams in the league in the next set of games. That'll be Orange versus Rising Stars later. Definitely an exciting match, but almost every team in the tournament is Chinese, and that's actually quite interesting because we'll get a chance to see some of the maybe teams that aren't as well known, but maybe just as good, or maybe close to as good, or maybe can even put up a fight with some of the best teams in the world. Now, the way we're building up to this is this week we'll have Group C play. Group C is composed of teams like Orange, as we mentioned, Rising Stars, ErH, NA, DB, and CCKD. Two teams will advance from the group. Then next week, we'll have Group D play with teams such as, who are the teams in Group D? One second, folks. That'll be For Love, Rattlesnakes, W Hut, Ogura Yui, The One, and GOS. So two teams from each group advance, and now recently there was actually a deal made with the ACE Association, so there will be the teams you know and love, like the Tier 1 Chinese teams, IG, LGD, Tongfu, and such. Well, actually, Tongfu was already in the tournament, but DK. Those teams will be coming in for the finals, which will be held, I believe, July 12th through 14th, and I believe we'll cover those in the Beyond the Summit studio. But for now, we look at the group stage, and we're going to cover it as it goes through. So this week, it might not just be me. Today it might just be me, but we will have most likely Triumph of Man joining me, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps later in the week. And then next week, I'll cover part of it, and then I think another streamer will cover part of it as well. But let's jump in here. Let me check quickly just to make sure that my sound is not muted, because it almost certainly is. Yes, it is. All right. So, jumping into this, we do have the group stage game, ErH versus Never Alone Gaming. Two teams that aren't very well known outside of China, but some of these players definitely been around the scene, and so far in the picks, more or less standard, with the exception of this very high priority Alchemist from NA. So, this is a pretty interesting choice. NA clearly values this pretty highly. They're going to almost certainly use it as a number one position Alchemist. The only other position we've ever seen Alchemist played in is Rattlesnakes has used him periodically as a mid, and then they still farm him up quite a bit from that position. And clearly, Never Alone Gaming is not going to use that Alchemist for mid. They will put him up in the side lane carry role, with Kunkka taking up the mid. Kunkka, a hero who's really gained just more and more currency over time. He started out as this hero that everybody regarded as an outside gimmick, and only in combination with Shadow Demon. He received several buffs, teams sort of started checking him out, and then he really exploded onto the scene in China. Teams like LGD, Tongfu picking him more and more frequently, especially LGD really went back to the hero again and again. At the G1 Champions League LAN final, I believe they tried to score him in basically every game where he wasn't banned. So he's become popular, and in 6.78, of course, he received another couple minor buffs. Lowered mana cost on X marks the spot, making it more usable early without putting a crimp on his mana pool. Of course, the Ghost Ship now does more damage, and as all of those factors really combine to make Kunkka a terrifying hero. He can lane pretty well. He has amazing teamfight presence. Even if you should miss the entire opposing team with your Ghost Ship, simply the damage reduction, the Coco's Rum effect, is going to make that worth it a lot of the time. So He's an excellent hero. Alchemist, though, picked up first for NA Gaming, perhaps because they've seen ErH pick him up as well and they wanted to score him, perhaps because they felt that in the second ban phase that occurs after your first 2 picks, Alchemist will get banned. The downside of the approach that NA have taken here is that they have scored 2 core heroes. They've got the Alchemist, they've got the Kunkka, but without either support picked up in their first 2, you now see quite a few support bans. So ErH first ban Visage, second ban Nyx Assassin. Nobody can blame them for these choices, in my opinion. It makes perfect sense. And NA taking out the Bat Rider and Clock first. But this second phase takes out a tremendous amount of other good support. So, of course, the Leshrac and Lina banned by NA for the simple reason that it synchronizes extremely well with Shadow Demon. So they don't want that combination of the disruption, putting into a Leshrac or Lina stun, the Light Strike Ray, or the Split Earth, and then followed by damage from whatever number 1 core hero ErH should choose to pick up. But with Rubik gone, with Leshrac, Lina, Nyx Assassin, and Visage, you could see NA in the position of actually selecting I won't say a subpar support, but a support that's less favored or maybe fits in not that fantastically with their game. And so ErH actually secures their second support, Jakiro. Another fine combo with Shadow Demon. You can use the Disruption to set up the Ice Path and actually do extremely well that way. You can use the Jakiro just in general will be very, very useful. You can vacuum into Ice Path, a combo that we've seen time and time again be extremely effective. ErH just picking a very, very solid lineup. And now, of course, we'll fill out a mid and a carry, or the other way around, for their last selections. NA, meanwhile, takes the support Silencer, so this brings a tremendous amount to a team fight from the global silence effect. That said, Silencer, not tremendously dominant in the lane. He needs a few levels. He can take over a game completely. I mean, we've seen players like Arsart from Virtus Pro, if we talk about the Western teams. We've seen Chuan from Invictus Gaming, just in a game in the G1 group stage between IG and VG. Chuan actually went, I believe, a godlike streak. He went 9-0 before dying on support Silencer. So Silencer can be played from the 4 or 5 position and still move on to sort of take over a game.
Reserve time.
Play moves over to NA Gaming, and basically, right now they have to select, in my opinion, a second support. The other option is to pick an offlaner now and then move to the next phase. They have some potential for an aggressive tri-lane, possibly, but I'm really not sure that that's going to be especially effective, simply because Alchemist, Silencer, X is not a tri-lane that's going to work extremely well for them. Now, if they do something like Juggernaut in an aggressive tri-lane and then the Alchemist on the solo safe, that's maybe something that they could make happen. But I am still concerned that if they don't manage to secure a very strong tri-lane for themselves, and against Shadow Demon, Jakiro, Gyrocopter, I'm not confident that there's a lot that NA can run to just dominate that lane. Juggernaut can attempt to do a solo hard against this. He's just going to have to peel back extremely often. Like, every time he sees the Shadow Demon walk up, he will have to use that Blade Fury before Disruption lands. Otherwise he's in a lot of trouble. You can precast the Ice Path right on top of the Disruption to have essentially a guaranteed stun. No matter how quickly Juggernaut tries to tap the Blade Fury button coming out of Disruption, he's still going to be stunned for basically the entire duration of Ice Path. So it's a difficult lane for a Juggernaut solo. Against certain lanes with maybe big wind-ups on their stuns or disables or what have you, like if you're facing a Sven support, sometimes you see Sven Lina, for instance, MUFC likes to run this lineup. You could just use the Juggernaut in response to, and he ends up being just fine against that trial, and he at least gets his XP. Or a Life Stealer, same story. But against this Gyro, Jakiro, Shadow Demon, I feel like NA are almost pushed into the idea of having to run an aggressive try, Silencer, Juggernaut, X, and then this means that Silencer will be relatively level-starved. Whenever you're in the aggressive try lane, there's really nowhere for the supports to go to get XP other than the lane. So they pull XP away from the carry, and they don't have that split XP that you can get when you're on the safe lane, where the supports will actually pull the jungle, they'll get some farm in the jungle, and your carry gets some measure of farm in the safe lane. ErH, of course, taking that Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter, a hero that began the scene as regarded as just sort of a toy, a plaything for Western teams. Then we saw Eastern teams try him out. First C teams, then Chinese teams, and now basically everybody uses this gyrocopter. The upside potential of this hero is just really dramatic. He's good early on, he can deal a lot of magic damage. He scales very well late game, he can be absolutely terrifying with Flak Cannon. The cooldown on Flak Cannon was increased by about 10 seconds recently, but it's actually not really put that much of a dent into the hero, simply because it slows down his farm. It slows down especially his ancient or jungle stack farming, but it doesn't slow down his late game scaling in any way. Usually one Flak Cannon in a team fight is enough to get the dominance that you want, and the second Flak Cannon is really just gravy. So we can see that the Witch Doctor, we can see exactly what happened with the Witch Doctor. Basically, this is not a lot of support options left. You go to a support option that's somewhat non-traditional, and you end up running a Witch Doctor here. Not that Witch Doctor is necessarily a terrible hero. He has a lot of things that he can do that are useful. The sole problem is he's another hero that's really dependent on getting levels, and they really lack for disable. And in fact, honestly, I would say they dramatically lack for disable here. Let me just turn this off.
Prepare for battle.
Alright, looking good. So, let's quickly introduce the teams. Over on NA's side, we do have Sweet JJ on the Kunkka, Dr. Star K, we'll just call him Dr. K, on the Alchemist, Farewell on the Silencer, Lee on the Witch Doctor, and Nikki on the Juggernaut. And it does look to be, it's going to be an aggressive tri-lane Alchemist, actually. Well, first they're going to head for a First Blood. So, of course, Witch Doctor here you can take to try to secure a First Blood with. He does not have Maledict, interestingly enough. He has taken his Cask first. So it is one of their only reliable stuns, but it won't give them that extra damage. So they're heading up into that dire jungle to try to get that First Blood. Looking up towards ErH, another Chinese team that will definitely be watching closely throughout this tournament. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the Shadow Demon, KMM on the Jakiro. The two of them will be supporting Az on the Gyrocopter. Then Yang on what looks to be a solo mid Dragon Knight, and that will leave YR on the offlane as Darkseer. And we do have wards planted for ErH. We've got the ward overseeing the rune. We've got the ward down here spying out some of the actions in this sort of avenue in the jungle. And it looks like actually we see ErH running a little bit of an aggressive tri-lane of their own. So the aggressive tri-lanes may end up in some respect ducking each other. We've got this Juggernaut, Witch Doctor, Silencer over here in the top. And then we've got this Shadow Demon Jakiro and Gyrocopter in the bottom. And then actually, this is interesting. We do see the Rattlesnakes-esque solo mid Alchemist, which I am somewhat surprised with. I did expect this to be the Kunkka in some respect, but it will be the Kunkka on the solo safe. Now, my only concern here is I feel like the Kunkka's free farm will be a little more difficult to pull off than Alchemist, who could use Acid Spray in this lane. And I feel well, it's actually tough to say whether the Acid Spray or the Kunkka Tidebringer will be a better harassment tool against Dragon Knight. Now, Dragon Knight's a hero who has decent base armor, and once he levels Dragon Blood, very good additional armor. So composite damage, such as the Acid Spray from the Alchemist, which is reduced by both armor and magic resistance, I'm not sure how likely it is to do as much damage as Tidebringer, which is simply a pure damage cleave. So, well, it's okay. At any rate, here comes the first gank. The Soul Catcher, the Disruption coming through, Ice Path to Chain, but where is Dragon Knight during all this period of time? They're doing their best to body block the Alchemist, actually doing a great job of blocking Dr. K. He's going to try to retreat to the tower, and a little bit of a miscommunication from ErH, unfortunately. NA rotating their supports over. There's the silence coming through on KMM. The Paralyzing Cast tossed out, but it's already out of time. Acid Spray on the ground, and both teams rotating their supports into really mixed effect. Neither team able to score a kill, and now almost a 3v3 standoff in the middle. Sweet JJ rotating as well, so actually Kunkka comes mid, and he will leave now. He'll head out to the bottom, and Lee and Farewell making a rotation as well. They feel that they probably can't kill the Darkseer. I actually agree, without a stun, they can put they really have no tools to kill this Darkseer at all. If they put Last Word on the Darkseer, he can simply use his haste and response, and then he surges away no problem out of wherever you want to go. So, without a way to actually... Oh, here we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He puts the Disruption down on Dr. K. There's the Ice Path. They catch him again. A little bit more damage will do the trick here. They don't have Soul Catcher. He throws out the stun. It goes on Shadow. Oh, the Dragon Knight gets the breath to finish it off. And Breathe Fire, securing first blood for ErH. And that's a good start for them, honestly. That'll get the Dragon Knight up to about level 4. 2 rotations for each of the supports so far, and that last rotation from ErH finally paying off for them, giving them the money to get a Flying Courier. And Alchemist, just really a lack of escapability from an early gank like that. He's doing alright as far as development, but that'll definitely set him back. Let's take a look at the farm situation so far. Dragon Knight doing okay in the middle, actually. Him and Alchemist just about tied except for that first blood, tipping the scales towards ErH. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Gyrocopter about 12 for 7. Kunkka actually, oh, there's the disruption again. Paralyzing cast to try to disrupt the Ice Path. Ice Path does end up stunning to Kunkka. There's Rocket Barrage, deflected mostly by the creeps. AS still trying to chase. One more hit from Flat Cannon will do the trick. Kunkka still alive, but will he go down? Rocket Barrage, yes, eclipse him. Now chasing Farewell and Lee. They're going to take quite a bit of damage as well, but probably not enough to kill them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, completely out of mana. But another kill on the board, even as... Who actually else died in there? Oh yeah, of course, the Jakiro was brought down during the course of that fight. So this tri-lane versus tri-lane situation started to get quite bloody, but the balance, I think, tips towards ErH. As, of course, picking up, oh, well, just an assist, but he did kill off the Kunkka. And 2 core heroes for NA have already died, whereas ErH have really only just lost the one support in the form of the Jakiro. Looking up towards the top lane, continuing, still, the Juggernaut now able to find pretty easy farm, but Darkseer can actually do quite a bit of harassment on Juggernaut simply by using Ion Shell, and that's exactly what you see him doing here. Nikki is actually out of regen. He just has this Magic Stick, which is a smart pick up against a Darkseer, and he has the Healing Ward to occasionally heal himself. But he has no item-based healing right now, and Darkseer actually pushing the lane up quite a bit. Meanwhile, continuing clashes down here. Ice Path comes through on Farewell and Lee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, forced to retreat here. He really doesn't have much in the way. There's the Torrent. It's actually going to... No, they'll ward him off. Dual Breath comes through. Farewell extremely low. He goes down. There's another Ice Path. Sweet JJ could be in trouble. ErH just chasing NA completely under their tower. And here you see ErH really taking a little bit of an advantage of the fact that they know that NA don't have a strong lane. And this is really the wages of not picking a support early. In the current metagame, and maybe this is just me editorializing, I really feel like supports are at a higher premium than carries are. You can make a lot of carries work. I mean, we've seen a wide pool, a wide variety of number 1 position players, taking a wide variety of heroes, and all of them, I won't say are interchangeable, but there are a lot of usable ones. YR, by the way, chased off here. He ran out of regen as well. Most likely wanted his tier 2 boots. He's instead going to have to go home, pick up a TP scroll, maybe come back, and then get his tier 2 boots. But nonetheless, there's only so many supports in these sort of high-pressure try-versus-try situations that are actually going to carry that tri-lane for you. And unfortunately, I'm not entirely certain that Witch Doctor is one of them. He brings a ton of damage in the form of the Maledict. The Paralyzing Cask is going to be a decent stun. But A, they have no real setup for Kunkka Torrent, so it's just going to require perfect Torrent positioning for Sweet JJ to actually be able to make something happen. Now, if they land the Torrent, I think more often than not they're able to earn a kill out of that. But if they're not able to land the Torrent, and there's really nothing guaranteeing that it will happen, then this more reliable tri-lane, this more classic Shadow Demon Jakiro Gyrocopter approach, is just going to somewhat overwhelm them. And you can already see that Sweet JJ, Kunkka, a hero who needs to hit item benchmarks. Oh, here we go. Disruption once again. Farewell taking a bit of damage. Nice blind Torrent once again, but the Rocket Barrage coming through. Maledict will actually miss on everybody. Kunkka and Lee, they're forced out. Farewell just trying to use a last word, but last word is exactly right. It's the last thing he does before going down. And now a 4-1 kill lead for ErH. And even if he's no, he takes a salve for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is a lane easily secured for ErH. Not to mention, they're kind of struggling in the middle as well. I really feel as though Kunkka would probably have done a little bit better than Alchemist has been able to do here. 13 for 3, which is okay performance, but the Dragon Knight is 32 for 12. And of course, Dragon Knight, a hero whose mid-usefulness, his ability to win the middle lane, has really gone down in recent times. The Bottle Crow nerf hit him hard, but here he's just been able to really dominate Dr. K. So, well played to Yang. He's just leveling that Breathe Fire, max first, using that bottle and just consistently doing damage to this Alchemist, of course. Now that Alchemist has Chemical Rage, it does help to some extent. Uh-oh, Farewell might get completely caught out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he wards up. Ooh, Disruption. He actually chooses to Shadow Poison, so that procs the silence of the last word. And so they're not able to catch Farewell, just due to the decisions of the Shadow Demon to cast a different spell instead. Nonetheless, ErH, I mean, they're farming well across basically 3 lanes. The only lane in which NA's Tricore is really working is this top, where Juggernaut has 31 for 3 up against the solo Darkseer. They have to be happy with that, because that's about the only person who's farming well. Alchemist really can't afford to level Greevil's Greed too heavily in the middle. In fact, he's leveled on Stable Concoction just in case someone attempts to gank him again. The downside of this, of course, is Acid Spray becomes far, far weaker. YR actually diving onto Juggernaut here, but not going to get too much done in that respect. Oh, here's the ultimate coming out from Yang. He wants to chase Dr. K, but Dr. K very intelligently flees. And the issue with the level 1 Acid Spray is it actually doesn't guarantee you much in the way of last hits, so it's been an opportunity for Dragon Knight to get a lot of denies. Like, you can see he actually has 17 denies on the board, and that's because this level 1 Acid Spray hasn't really been able to get that much for him as far as farm. So, basically as a result of some of the laning choices as well as the draft of NA, I feel like ErH have been able to win bottom comfortably and win mid comfortably. The top is where really there's a lot of hope for NA. Juggernaut now with Phase Boots, Poor Man's Shield, of course the stick that he almost started out with, and we'll see him build towards more concrete items pretty soon. We'll have to see if he becomes the drums carrier. I think most likely it would be smart to get drums on Juggernaut simply because he has the money to do so, and you may need to with the extremely limited farm that you're getting on Kunkka. I mean, they still need tier 2 boots, and after that, I mean, Kunkka, typically Shadow Blade, he really needs to hit those item benchmarks to be able to deal appreciable damage, and right now he doesn't have those item benchmarks, and so he's really going to struggle. In fact, I'm still waiting to see how NA is going to pull all these disparate strands together into sort of a strong overall plot of how to play it out. They can get some ganks maybe with Witch Doctor and Silencer. I mean, they've got fantastic damage if the Maledict lands. I mean, if Lee puts this Maledict down, even rank 1 Maledict, it can really lead to some fantastic kills, but that's about all he has. He just has Maledict in the casks. Still down at level 3. Shadow Demon, of course, level 3 as well, but Jakiro now up to level 4. And this is the real problem. Of these 3 core heroes, oh, actually, they are trying to get YR. Here comes the Surge. Maledict comes through, but it's not going to be enough damage. With the Omni Slash, it is. One more hit. The Maledict damage will kill him. Nikki does not need to chase this. He actually ends up diving very, very deep. He's trying to spin to win out. Yes, he will TP out. And finally, another kill on the board for NA. Nicely done picking up that Darkseer, the Paralyzing Cask, managing to waste quite a bit of the surge time, and this rotation from Yang basically comes to naught as the Dragon Knight not able to pick the Juggernaut on the back half. Meanwhile, a rotation around, they want to respond. Sweet JJ, Soulcatcher already up on him. Here comes the call down. Torrent will miss, and that's most likely a tier 1 tower as well as Kunkka on the ground, and this is the problem for NA. This is a level 4 Kunkka, now with 2 deaths, 12 last hits, boots, double gauntlets of strength, and an Iron Branch. Almost nothing of note on this Kunkka. Dr. K trying to bait Yang into a bit of an overextension, but I'm not sure that Farewell can actually generate a kill here. He's really just got the level 2 last word. Now level 1 Curse of the Silent as well, although the damage of level 1 Curse of the Silent really quite nominal. And there's the first tower to fall. ErH picks up a quick tower, puts themselves a little bit ahead on the pushing situation, and we'll see them continue to go through here. Gyrocopter, good solid build, the Phase Boots, the Basilius, possibly an Akala later, and the Robe of the Magi Bracer, most likely going to be turned into a Drums sooner or later. So, the push coming through a little bit, KMM on this Jakiro, of course, he's got that Liquid Fire. This is actually a pretty good push tool, 20% attack slow, including on towers, as well as a damage over time effect. And Shadow Demon doesn't bring that much to the push, but if anybody tries to contest this, I mean, Sweet JJ has been essentially completely locked out of this game. Nice little torrent there, but the only thing this is going to do is maybe warn Gyrocopter off for a short period of time. And the rest of NA, just not quite sure what it is that they want to make happen yet. We do see Nikki with his phase boots rotating over. Maybe Farewell and Lee come to do something. Here comes the Juggernaut. AS is actually very deeply dove, but there's no Omni Slash just yet. 10 seconds on the cooldown. Juggernaut not quite up to that level 2 Omni Slash. Actually, maybe this creep wave gets him there. I actually don't think it does, so not able to punish this, but he does rotate over, forces ErH out. They do protect their tier 2 as well as their Kunkka. And Yang, you can just see how comfortable he feels sitting in this rank 1 of Acid Spray. He doesn't, well, it's rank 2 now, but he still hardly cares. It's not doing much in the way of damage. He's got this solid armor so far, going towards a quick Shadow Blade. Basically the most fashionable Dragon Knight build right now. You can basically use it as a pseudo initiation because you run in stealth mode at dramatic speeds when you have your ultimate form and stun from a long distance away. Nikki once again chasing YR. YR, of course, extremely cognizant of the fact that this Omni Slash is back up and that if he's not near a creep wave, it could spell his doom, frankly. Juggernaut still on that rank 1 Omni Slash, but tough to say whether it will be the end of Darkseer, actually. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. Looking up towards the GPM, you could just see only one of the 3 elements of NA's core composition is actually getting the gold that he needs to be effective, and that's Juggernaut, as we mentioned before. Alchemist and Kunkka have struggled a little bit more. Alchemist doing okay in that middle lane, but Kunkka in that solo safe turning into a try versus try, really not able to get much done. Here we go. ErH are diving very, very deep. Can they find the stun on this Alchemist? It doesn't look as though they will, and now they find themselves very deeply dove indeed. Nice Ice Path from Shakira. Here comes the call down to slow Nikki down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Almost certainly dies here. Farewell. No, not the last hit just yet. Just defensive disruption. Here comes Omni Slash. Rank 2. Yang still alive. They might trade the Nikki for the Jakira. He uses his magic stick charges. There's the vacuum. Will they get Farewell as well? Dragon Knight continuing to attack with this. Yes, the corrosive breath manages to get it. Dodging Torrent almost accidentally. Sweet JJ, unfortunately, he doesn't have the mana for Ghost Ship. Here comes the stun from Dr. K. Still in tower range. Yang, will he walk away from this? He's still running. The Tidebringer comes through, but he'll make it to the safety of his high ground. So in the final reckoning 3-for-2 trade, ErH still managing to get a little bit of more dominance, and they're going to continue pushing this middle lane quite possibly. Yang running out of time on his dragon. He might not get too many corrosive stacks onto this tower, but he will get at least 1. There it is. 2 sources of damage over time, melting that tower, honestly. It's dropping quite quickly. As taking some damage, but the mechanism just delivered for the Darkseer. Nice Torrent. Will we get the ship? No mana still. Kunkka still lacks the levels, and ErH managed to take the tower for free and flee out with only a Torrent on their face. That's unfortunate. I mean, NA, if only Kunkka had drums right now, a little bit more of stats, maybe a tier 2 power treads that he could toggle to int, then at least he'd be able to use his level 6 to get a ghost ship. Honestly, ErH were clumped extremely well for ghost ship there. A ship coming in from this direction could get an all stun, followed by a Torrent, followed by an unstable concoction. That's something that NA could take advantage of if their laning phase was more comfortable. Unfortunately, that's a big if. Their laning phase was not more comfortable. You can see 3 people farmed extremely comfortably in the lanes for ErH, so we'll have to see what ErH do to actually take advantage of what they've been able to develop so far. So you can see Darkseer, Gyrocopter, and Dragon Knight all dominating the net worth charts. I mean, they're the 3 top, well ahead of Juggernaut, Kunkka struggling behind, and I think it behooves ErH, even though they do have this Gyrocopter who only has carry potential a little bit later, they know that they're being dominant right now. They've got the Shadowblade Dragon Knight. If anybody comes to defend a tower, they could just dive right past that and stun them. So it makes perfect sense. Here we go. Yang popping the ultimate. They're going to bring down this tier 1 top tower extremely quickly. There's the fortification coming out from NA. But when you use fortification, sometimes it's because you expect to mount some kind of defense, and it really doesn't seem as though they will be able to. NA just seeking to get the trade, a fortification in the middle. They're going to try to bring down this tower. Unfortunately, their push is far slower. They do have this healing ward to heal themselves up. They have the acid spray for potential wave clear. It's still only level 2 acid spray. And ErH, their push is just vastly superior. They've got the corrosive breath, they've got the liquid fire. Now all they got to do is clear out. There's the smoke to speed them up. They actually decide to turn around. Dr. K, is he overextended here? There's the vacuum. Yes, it's already brought down. And so ErH, so they secure 2 towers and a kill on the Alchemist for themselves. And this is looking mighty grim for NA at this point. I mean, they're pushed back quite a bit. They're down 3 tower disadvantage, actually 4 tower disadvantage. Juggernaut managing to get a favorable trade for himself as well. Uses the Omni Slash, brings down the tower solo in the end, doesn't get the last hit, but does TP out. So nicely done by the Juggernaut here. And again, Nikki really the bright spot for his team so far. Now, phase drums, poor man's. I did mention I was hoping that somebody else would pick up the drums, just because I really thought the Juggernaut needs to seize bigger items right off the bat, because they're so far behind that the Juggernaut is one of their few routes to get themselves back in. But it may not be utterly fatal. It's as long as you have those drums, they're a very, very effective teamfight item. NA badly needs to shore up their teamfight. They've got a level 5 silencer that doesn't have his global yet. They've got a Juggernaut that's doing well, but a Kunkka that's still at this point level 8, almost nothing to show for it, just finishing off his Urn of Shadows. So perhaps hoping to get some sort of ganks off with the Witch Doctor silencer, but that's starting to become eclipsed with only Witch Doctor only at level 4, only the rank 2 Maledict and the rank 2 Paralyzing Cask. Really not what you expect from a WD when you pick him up, as he is a fairly level-dependent hero. Witch Doctor, one of the best level 16 supports at level 16, because level 16 is an enormous buff to his Death Ward. But we're not going to see a level 16 Witch Doctor here, folks. It's just tremendously unlikely. If he's level 4 at 17 minutes, and the game is progressing the way it is, my suspicions are that he will not hit level 16 before the game concludes. Here comes Ice Path. Yang going to Shadow Blade initiate from the back. Here comes Call Down on 3. Sweet JJ in trouble already. Nice and stable concoction. AS actually quite low already, but Dr. K slowed way down. Yang forced out here. Maledict doing quite a bit of work. Dr. K already on the ground. They may get the Dragon Knight with one more tick of Maledict. Will he pop? Yes! The Witch Doctor manages to get 1 kill out of that fight. Thank God. They at least managed to hoover up the Dragon Knight, but at the cost of Alchemist, at the cost of Kunkka. Once again, 2 on the ground, and that's a position that NA doesn't want to be in. Of course, they lose the tower during the skirmish as well. Last hit actually going to AS on the Gyrocopter. And so ErH, they're just effectively using what I think was a superior strategy overall. I mean, they just positioned intelligently, they laned smart, their draft was good, and they put NA in the unenviable position of having to pick very... I mean, NA doubled down on, yes, we'll find a support to use no matter what, right? Like, they picked the Juggernaut 4th, so they left their last support pick for 5th, and unfortunately, this Witch Doctor Silencer combination really hasn't flexed its muscles too much. Theoretically, it should have pretty good damage, but the lack of disable, the lack of ability to respond in the 3 vs 3 lane has really cost them. As, I mean, Kunkka, he's got a little bit more GPM than Alchemist at this point, but that's not saying much because Alchemist GPM has struggled just as much. 2 ranks of Greevil's Greed, but when you're not getting those last hits, I mean, just look at this, 38 last hits for Alchemist, and Greevil's Greed ramps up your farm dramatically when you can get a consistent amount of last hits and you can chain them together and just constantly be farming. And constantly be farming is not how I would characterize how this game has been going for this for Dr. K on this Alchemist. Unfortunately, he far apart from constantly farming, he almost hasn't had any farm at all. Juggernaut again, how much can Nikki really do? In that last fight, he did some work, but ErH now pushing towards the tier 3, Dragon Knight in ultimate form yet again. He's actually level 11 without rank 2, so I wonder if he knows about the 6.78 change. I do expect him to take that tier 2 ultimate with level 12, because there is no reason anymore to delay leveling this Dragon Knight ultimate. No reason whatsoever. Nikki trying to counter push. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comes over. He's just gonna spin to win his way out, and 2 TP's not gonna do too much. They actually cancel the second. Yang, yeah, I would expect him to actually take that rank 2 of the Dragon Knight ultimate because it does carry the Corrosive Breath over. There's absolutely no reason not to level that second level, and would expect him to do that. Gyrocopter also done with his BKB, so this will give them the ability to at least get through Kunkka Torrents. Silencer won't be able to do much. The Blade Fury of Juggernaut, everything that Witch Doctor does, it's a good pickup just to prevent the Gyrocopter from being stunned by either the Unstable Concoction or the Paralyzing Cask. And yeah, I respect this, honestly. It's a perfectly reasonable choice. It's the safe choice for Gyrocopter. NA, you can see them massing up, considering whether to interfere with this Roshan, but if they don't go soon, they're actually going to run out of time. In fact, ErH, basically an uncontested Roche picked up for them. That reclaim timer, unfortunately, is still bugged, folks. Hopefully in about a week, Valve will put out some sort of patch that'll fix that reclaim, because of course reclaim in 6 minutes, Roshan respawn in about 10 minutes. as he's going to rotate with Yang towards that middle lane. They do have a decent amount of wards as well. They actually saw everything that NA were doing as they massed up to consider interfering with Roshan. NA wisely deciding that they probably couldn't do it. They don't have that much in the way of fantastic teamfight tools. They do now have the Death Ward from Witch Doctor, and they can Paralyze and Cask and Maledict a bunch of folks, so that could be a big deal, but there's nothing guaranteeing that your Maledict hits multiple without the presence of something like Dragon Knight, without the presence of something like Darkseer Vacuum, and of course ErH are the ones who have that vacuum at their disposal, already using it to lock down some ganks. It hasn't been huge in teamfights so far, but not for lack of trying and not for lack of YR developing. If he makes something like a Shiva's to slow down NA, that could lead to some big vacuums because NA are unable to find the positioning that they want. Meanwhile, Yang, just farming away at the bottom here, his BKB actually complete as well, so we are now going to have both a Dragon Knight and a Gyrocopter that won't be disabled, but be able to do a lot of push, and just, it's going to be tough to bring them down or really to have any sort of response. Meanwhile, NA, I think they're in more or less desperation mode at this point. They haven't really tried that much in the way of smoke ganks. I would expect to see that from them next, because in the absence of that, I mean, look at the, oh, actually, Nikki gets caught out. The Dragon Knight's down the ice path. He might drop before he can even spin. Well, not quite before then, but the spin is all he gets. Torrent on 3, not enough to save his pal, the Juggernaut, and Kunkka forced to just walk away from this, sadly. Unfortunately, at this point, even Nikki, as well as he was doing, isn't able to stand up to the entire enemy team. He's leveled to do it. I mean, he's level 13, tied for the highest level in the game, but the positioning that Juggernaut's in here is nearly untenable as far as trying to go against an entire team. And he really needs the support of everybody else, even if they're not dramatically effective, even if as the Kunkka, Silencer, and Witch Doctor they're underleveled. Juggernaut can't go it alone. But it's a problem of vision. I mean, just the one defensive ward here for NA, with the basically wards absolutely everywhere for ErH. They've got all 4 wards up and all of them on NA's side of the map, and that reflects really supreme confidence that they will never have to even be on their side of the map, so what's the point of having vision there? Jakiro just putting a bit of liquid fire. AS actually high ground sieging the tower, which is interesting. Of course, it doesn't have backdoor protection, as there was a creep wave sneaking in on the bottom here to disable the tier 3 tower backdoor. But they actually peel off. YR going to the top, going to push out this top lane. A little bit of damage done to the tier 3s, and I think ErH are happy to chip away, happy to begin the siege, and do a little bit of work on the tier 3 here and there. Nonetheless, Gyrocopter going to farm the jungle here. They have supreme, again, the confidence. They have vision. They can see basically everything that NA are actually doing. This ward will expire pretty soon, but I'll expect them to put up a new one just as quickly. So, with vision, with knowing basically where all of NA are at any given time, there's nothing stopping ErH from farming the opposing jungle, maybe even going for ganks, although there's only 3 here. This would be a, well, maybe they'll try to catch out Sweet JJ. The Ice Path comes through. They do still stun him. There's the Dragon Knight, pops the ultimate Shadow Blade. There's the lockdown. Kunkka already on the ground. It's like there wasn't even a Kunkka. Just a little hole, a little blood spatter where the Kunkka used to be, and the Admiral doesn't even go down with this ship. I'm not sure we have even seen a ship. Meanwhile, in the mid, Nikki doing his best. Omni Slash actually doesn't even get the Shadow Demon kill. There's actually a Vac coming through, doing a bit of damage to the Juggernaut. He TPs away, but unfortunately the siege has begun in the bottom lane at the same time. The Dragon Knight illusions, both of them popped out, doing a bit of damage to the tower. The Corrosive Breath comes through. Dragon Knight goes high ground. Farewell shot down. There's the Ice Path. Great Ice Path so far this game. Unstable Concoction thrown out for the... hits the Dragon Knight. Jakira's still here. AS pops his BKB, goes to the high ground, wards Nikki off. They're still plugging away at this tower. There's the Torrent, hits on the Jakiro only. Ghost Ship comes through. It hits 3 people on NA's side, so that's good. Coco's Rum, maybe this is a chance. Nice and stable Concoction. There's the Paralyzing Cast. KMM will go down. A huge Maledict. YR in trouble now. Yang uses his BKB, but they might actually get this. Torrent to shut down AS. They need to keep chasing. There's Tidebringer, but Kunkka just doesn't have the HP. Alchemist now fighting Dr. K. The Gyrocopter pops his Aegis. There's the Global Silence, but to what end? To what effect? Dr. K is on the ground. AS charges back in. Nice Torrent. Kunkka, actually, he's in the disruption. 2 stacks of Shadow Poison. He goes down to Shadow Demon damage. Farewell warded off. This is probably the high ground pierced, unfortunately. There's the TP back from Nikki. He immediately spins to win. He's going on the Shadow Demon, but he's fast forced to back off. There's all so low, but ErH, they don't want to give up the siege just yet. Yes, they do. They peel themselves out in a jiffy in the end. Gyrocopter loses his Aegis, but survives. They get the tier 3. No racks, but I have to say, more and more pressure being layered on NA in every single one of these fights. They escape with the skin of their teeth, by the skin of their teeth, I should say, from that engagement. Just barely managing to convince ErH not to stay for the barracks. Actually, Gyrocopter managed to... That was a very, very strong siege timing from ErH. As you guys see, the reclaim timer on the Aegis was just seconds away. In fact, it would have been reclaimed right around now, so not a moment too soon to use that Aegis of the Immortal. And Shiva's complete for Darkseer. Honestly, ErH, just a commanding performance in this Game 1. Most likely we'll see NA move to a Game 2 sooner or later, as... It's not that a comeback is impossible, it's just that with the 3 core heroes, you need to make sure that all 3 of them find some farm, and they just haven't been able to actually do it. The Kunkka is somewhat redeeming himself. I mean, after a start of maybe 8 last hits at 10 minutes, he's now up to 90. Here comes the curl around. Haste rune for Dragon Knight. He's going to come in. If he stuns Nikki, this could be trouble. Here's the Corrosive Breath. Vacuum probably to follow. Vacuum a little bit early still. There's the Omni-Slash response from Nikki. He's probably going to Blade Fury next. He can TP. He needs to TP. He's got to TP out now or he will just go down to this DOT damage. Of course, it's not fatal, but the attack is. And Juggernaut on the ground. 17-7 for ErH. They're just picking off the one hope of NA time after time, showing NA, hey, you guys think that your Juggernaut is going to lead your way back into this game? Not too likely. Not able to get too much done. There's the Surge. Dragonite charging in. Jakiro actually in a smoke. He's going to try to make something happen. The Ice Path actually didn't even clip the Kunkka. Yes, it did. Why did I doubt those Ice Paths? They have been so useful. Liquid fire damage over time, picking it off. YR helping to clear out a little bit here. 2 on the ground. Jakiro and Kunkka. This is an easy push for ErH. I mean, the only problem is their lanes are too far back, so they won't be able to take advantage of these 2 heroes dying, except insofar as they can build items out. Gyrocopter now with an MKB. Keep in mind, Az has yet to die a single time this game. He's got MKB, BKB, Phase Boots, Basilius, Drums. Just really, I mean... Gyrocopter going to push through here, just clear out a wave, push this lane in, and it's just a choice for ErH which lane they want to pursue first, but they can easily push 2 in. Thus, I mean, it just really forces NA to multitask with a team that doesn't have great wave clear just yet. In fact, they have very little in the way of wave clear at all. Alchemist, I mean, in theory, the Acid Spray, that's about it. That's really about it as far as AoE damage goes. They can also use Spin to clear, but you want to use Spin for other things. Farewell actually stun down. This will probably see them coming in. There's the Global Silence. BKB probably going to be mostly wasted from Dragon Knight. It's already ticking down to about its last 2 seconds, so they won't have that. There's the Unstable Concoction for YR. Acid Spray on the ground. Torrent will miss. Lee is already dead. Ghost Ship coming through. Just clips the Jakiro. Here we go with the chase. Vacuum into the Frost Dragon. Slow into the wall. Into the Gyrocopter. And Acid Spray to finish. No, actually, Ice Path to finish it off. All of NA on the ground. And the synergies of ErH's lineup just coming through again and again. Now that Dragon Knight, of course, is 16. He's got that Frost Dragon. That vacuum into the Frost attacks, into Ice Path, that will be a killer. And when your team has level 8s and you're facing a level 16 Dragon Knight that has essentially had unimpeded farm across the map, you will die. You will get picked off. And NA tried to make a decent defense. They almost stabilized when trying to defend their Raxes, but unfortunately way too far behind by that point for it to really matter. And the Kunkka not really able to get in shape to actually deal big damage. They're just the 1 boat towards the end. 2 boats actually. 1 boat to defend that just hit friendlies. 1 boat at the very end that just hit Jakiro. NA going to have to retool their draft approach, I think, for Game 2, as that was a little rough to watch. I mean, they really couldn't make a tri-lane work. They got pressured across the map, and only Juggernaut didn't have an utterly miserable time early on. Thanks for watching, folks. That was Game 1 of NA versus ErH. This is the RedBull ECL Chinese League that we'll be covering on Beyond the Summit. We'll cover the group stages here on Beyond the Summit 2, and then switch over to the mainstream for the finals, which will be July 12th through 14th. So that'll be on Twitch TV /Beyond the Summit. Of course, this phase, the group phase, is on Twitch TV /Beyond the Summit 2. This is Group C play. We will see another game from NA ErH. These are all best of 3, including the group stage. This is our first of 2 best of 3s of the day. The second best of 3 in about, I would say, 2 to 3 hours will be Orange versus Rising Stars. The 2, I would say, favored teams to come out of Group C play. Nonetheless, thank you so much for watching. Beyond the Summit 2, your caster for the present moment is Vickermond. We'll see what we get in the way of a co-caster or 2 for some later games. But for now, we'll be right back with Game 2 of NA versus ErH. Thanks for watching.